think so because you know what? Look, when me and the girls were doing this, that shit was on red the whole time. The whole time. Okay, welcome everybody. This is Aisha, black girl from Eugene. It is 11 o'clock. We started on time.
Yeah,
What's happening? Okay, so I'm here with Marcus, M5. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Right on.
It's a beautiful Sunday. It's not too hot yet.
It's not too hot.
Yeah.
They say it's gonna be 93 tomorrow. What do you do when it's hot?
Fan.
Do you?
Have a fan on it. That still doesn't work because like it's just hot air blowing on you.
What?
So like, I don't know. There's a lot of cold water. I've been drinking way more cold. No, I just drink from the faucet straight up. No cold water. This summer has been different.
No, do you know? I mean, back like in Georgia, they had like AC and everything,
yeah.
right? But see, I learned you put ice behind the fan and it'll cool the water. But then you gotta like keep putting the like forever.
I'm not about that. So. But yeah, like in Georgia, say it's so humid. Like as soon as you step out the house, like it's just you're just in a swamp right there.
Yeah, right.
Swamp. And you get to the car yard, like you just took a shower, then you get to the car, you just already breaking out in the sweat.
Yeah.
So,
no, it's fast. You go from one place to AC to the next place. I mean, that's how you do it. That's why people are like, oh, it's so hot in Texas. I'm like, I don't even notice because I'm in AC all the time. Yeah. You know what I mean? My car is already blowing AC by the time I get there. we don't mess around with that. Otherwise, you gonna melt. You know?
Yeah, I went to visit my brother. He was in San Antonio in the end of February. Oh, okay, it shouldn't be too hot here about Texas. And at the end of February, it was 100-something degrees in February. I was like, how do you live out here?
What?
Like, why would you want to live out here?
Why would you want to? My niece and I, when we drove back from Texas last summer, when we left, we do that early morning. Leave at 4 a.m., get on the freeway before everybody. So it was like 4:30 in the morning, 5. We were packing the U-Haul. And no, I'm not even kidding. It was 85 degrees and like 85% humidity. It was so hot and it was dark outside still. We were just like, get out of here. It was rough. It was rough. Anyway, okay, welcome. We were talking, again, I'm Marcus Holloway. So I thought about this. You just came out with a new track. And I'm not in the studio to play your music. Like, this is real. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
I did think about it. And I was like, I need tech help. I'm looking at y'all. Like I need some tech help.
You put it out there, it's gonna come to you.
It's gonna come to. I'm seriously putting that into the universe. Because I would love to be able to play your music. We could hear it in here and jam a little bit, and then start. These are my dreams. Okay. First, I want to say thank you everybody for supporting me ongoing. We are doing some major stuff. Started a whole new business. And then my podcast is my love, passion project, and it keeps it real for me. It keeps it grounded. You know what I mean? And then we have my Race Equity Matters. Is the company where I'm doing anti-racism conversations. And then we have my Black Gold Culture Camp, which is a nonprofit. That's education pieces for children and families. So I'm combining all three because, I ain't got nothing to do, right? I'm combining all three. And I have an announcement next week where the website and everything's going to come out. We have a commercial that was basically gifted to me by Caleb Brexius. And I want to give a big shout out to him because this commercial is 48 seconds long and it's beautiful. I can't even believe it. Rachi's in it. She don't know yet, though. I should tell her. Well, because we all, what you do when you model for Caleb, you sign off your images. So, it's a what's the word? When you can just buy, you can just buy people's images and put them in different things or whatever. Stock video. It's like stock video. So, so her image is in there. And then there's one other person I know. Oh, and then it's me, Vanessa, and Drea. We're in there together, too. But then everyone else is local folks, and it's all brown. It's so good. My coworker who's working with me, my secretary for the nonprofit, she said she watched it and she cried. She's like, it's just so beautiful.
So it's not out yet?
It's not out yet. It's coming this next week.
I gotta see before that.
No, I can show it to you. It's a secret, right? I'm even changing my logo, everything. We're gonna have merchandise. It's all coming out next week. It's gonna just be popping. So thank you guys for supporting me. Look out for that. My Patreons, thank you so much. I hope y'all are enjoying my little stuff I be giving them. I give a little newsletter and some pictures, and I let them get inside peeks. So they've already seen the new logo. I'm about to show them the commercial. They get to see these things before it comes out. So anyway, if that incentivizes you to drop $5 a month, please do because it helps.
Yeah.
All right.
Shout out to my mom real quick. She loves your show. I think I let you know already, but she
Yeah.
said, oh, I didn't know you're checking out Aisha. Okay, that's what's up.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm blushing because whenever Mama says, that she's listening to my show, I'm like, that's like a next level respect for me. You know what I mean? My mother listens to my show and she doesn't miss a show. And having our moms, you know what I mean, and our grandparents and like people like giving me love like that. So shout out to Marcus Mama, Miss Marcus Mama. What's her name?
Angela.
Miss Angela, thank you so much for watching me. I appreciate you. And thank you for telling me because now I feel like now there might be pressure. I'm like, oh no. Now I feel pressure. But honestly, thank you so much. So, okay, let's get started. We were going to talk about love. Now, I know how we advertise this looked a little different, right? Because I talked about, what I did, I had like this, like, people are looking for this change and people are looking for these answers. And then when someone tells you the answer is within you, they be like, no. Keep on moving.
Hey.
Right?
Yeah.
The last job.
Yeah, because he's like, who's the master? Like, and he looks inside himself and he starts glowing.
Right.
And I was like, man, I was such a fan of that.
That's what I'm saying, though. But that's the hardest lesson. Because you're so, like what we were talking about, we were going to start off with the short game and the long game.
Yeah.
Talking about the long game being love and the short game being this fight that we're in right now. And I want everyone to understand that, like, we're talking about the protests. We're talking about, the division in the country politically. We're talking about not understanding race, not understanding gender. We're talking about holding so tightly on to what you believe and not being able to understand that we are all human, living our lives on our own separate journeys that don't have to collide with each other, but have some mutual respect for the journey. I don't know, like, when I think about it, I do know as I get older and I look back, I'm like, I had so much fight about stuff I had no reason to be fighting for or about. You know what I mean? Like, I think about, like, how much energy I spent on fighting for, like, what I thought should have been. Like, you should be doing, and it's kind of like, the should is really not my business. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, when we start talking about, like, the definition of love and, like, which we will try to define here today.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
But, like, that whole, the growth, the maturity, but then there's, like, the synchronicity, and then there's, like, the community, where people are like, well, you should be doing this. It's like, what? How are we defining should that way where, then we talk about, like, I guess the basic human rights, you know what I mean? Which is clear. I right when I hit that, I kind of started thinking about people not wanting to wear masks and then wearing masks, like, in public, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then all of these, like, thinking about someone, I'm not going to say his name, but I looked at his live feed and he was talking about how he sees more American flags lately and how it makes him feel so proud. And I was like, how do people feel about the American flag? Like, should you be doing flying flags? Should you not? Like, there's those should yous, right?
It's a nationalism thing.
It's a nationalism thing.
On top of that, we're taught that in elementary, you're pledging allegiance to a flag. Like, it's essential. It's almost a brainwashing when you're young. You don't know, but you're repeating this every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day. And you think it's just normal. Like, oh, this is what we have to do. So you stand up, put your hand over your heart, and you're pledging allegiance to a flag.
Right.
So pledging allegiance, I don't even know what I don't care.
Right.
Sitting here pledging allegiance to a flag.
Yeah.
So that's just crazy in a sense, just really thinking about things that were taught in school, like, so young, like, just even in school, and not getting taught everything.
But when do you get, like, okay, so when you're little, you know what, that's funny, because I was about to say, you're taught to share, and you're taught that people do certain things, but the real truth at elementary school is out in the playground, right? Because you know when what happens in class, we all sit next to each other, and I'm like, I hate him, and I hate her, and all these things. But we're going to do what? We're going to pledge the allegiance, and then we're going to go out into the playground like, my daddy said, you ain't supposed to be doing that, right? And then it's like, my daddy said, and then that's the real truth happens, right?
Yeah. Oh.
My mama said,
Well, I ruined it for a lot of kids, because during Christmas, like, I think I found some VHS really, really early, like, in age, of my mom and my dad putting presents underneath the tree.
Oh,
like,
no!
Santa Claus ain't real. So I went to school, like, Santa Claus isn't real. Everybody's like, yeah, he is. And everybody was arguing with me. I'm like, no, I seen it. I know what they do. They hear parents put your present underneath the tree. And the teacher came over to me and was like, please don't tell anybody that. Like, so
Marcus, stop telling the truth.
Yeah, she's like, right, but I'm ruining it for them. I'm like, oh, so it's a little game that we're playing. And I was like, why do I have to? So
interesting. You said this is a game. You saw it like that?
Yeah, I was like, why do I have to keep this quiet? Like Santa Claus isn't real. I have to let the kids know. I have to let my friends know.
You're like, tell the choir.
Yeah,
I gotta tell y'all. That's hilarious. And then the teacher said, no.
Yeah, she's like, don't run it for other kids, basically.
So right, like, so we're talking about like we have this like narrative.
Mm-hmm.
I've been talking about narratives a lot lately, and all of the things that I've been doing is like the narrative that we are covering,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so in the narrative, like we were talking about with love, children, and I just realized my grandson is 3 years old, and he is smart. And we go, oh, he's so sweet, he's so cute, and he don't know. He knows,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So by the time they are 5, they really know. So when they're in that classroom, and the black kids are in the back, or they always are raising their hand and never called on, you know, or the kids who, all the things that we're looking at around the classroom are white, you know, all the toys, all the dolls, everything. The black kids are there, the Latino kids are there, the indigenous kids are there, people of color are there. The parents come in and we tell our kids, our nieces, nephews, whatever, you better act right, right? Do what they're telling you to do what they're saying to do, right? And everyone else knows that's how it's supposed to go. You do these certain things, and I do these certain things. Even, regardless if we're like covering it with the lather or the butter of like just get along, just keep it right, just keep it going type of thing. We're teaching a narrative at the very beginning. So when he started talking about the American flag, I had to start thinking about how old was I when I realized that the American flag was not necessarily all good because of the history for my people in it. It wasn't that long before I realized, I was like, hold on. So we got 2 different narratives happening, and one is being encouraged and one is not. So then one then automatically breeds an idea of I have to fight to be heard in this scenario, even when I'm right here sitting next to my people who I'm supposed to know, my friends.
Yeah.
Like they call all the kids at school, like with my grandson, they call them everyone's called a friend. So you don't, like, it's not like, you know, your coach or your,
that's interesting.
Everyone's a friend, right? So when I'm thinking about like what we're talking about, like the long game being love and the short game being the struggle, right? Because you are like we were just talking about your brother being like you're just so soft, man. You're just so loving. I want to hear your perspective because I'm going to be the cynical one here. Because I want to define love. I want to talk about what's healthy. What's healthy love? I think just like what we were talking about, it all comes back down to us. You know, regardless, it comes back down to how you feel about you and feel about your journey and how healthy you can be in accepting who you are. And it doesn't mean that we don't have depression and we don't have post-traumatic like I do, you do, but we are actually like I feel like, for me, I'm going to speak for myself, have gone through enough trauma that I'm okay with the trauma that I've been through. I'm no longer victimized by it, right? So I've come onto a healthy side of that trauma. It doesn't mean that now I'm 100%, never going to be in a position again where I have to redo the work that I've done to be healed again. Grief just doesn't work that way, right? Yeah. But does that make me unhealthy? It actually makes me crazy healthy because I'm actually able to face me. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about them. I'm not talking about what happened. Meaning that, like, not in terms of what happened from my perspective. You know what I mean? There's no blame. There's just facts at this point, right? Yeah. But the journey from this to that, I'm in my 40s. You know what I'm saying? Like, before we got on camera, we were talking about the energy I had, the things I thought about when I was younger. Like, I just can't imagine the energy that I spent fighting about that. But we were talking about, wait, what? Oh, no, I forgot now. We were talking about, we were talking about you being in Georgia and me being in Texas. Yeah, and just talking about, like, the proximity to whiteness and, like, how how we felt. I felt differently about it then when I was in community than I do here. I don't get angry with the ignorance. Where I think before I wouldn't get angry, but
frustration.
Yeah, I think I had less. Well, let me you know what? Now that I'm sitting there thinking about that, I'm like, that might not even be true. Like, cause I just don't think now that I'm healed from feeling traumatized by. Well, now that I'm healing, because it's a process, you don't get. It's not like a boom. Now you're good. You know what I mean? But for the process of healing from being in Eugene and growing up in Eugene, I think I have a different perspective on white ignorance than I did before. Like that kind of, like, what am I trying to say? Like, it's kind of like I don't have to front it. I don't have to do the fight, the short game fight with it anymore. It's just not, it doesn't come, I don't know that it comes from a healthy place. I mean, does it come from a healthy place?
In a sense, what does what come from a healthy
place? The fight.
If you mean like a healthy place as far as like fighting to understand love, fighting to love.
Right.
It does, like, and it's one of those things where like I had to like, okay, if I want my life to change around, I really have to start mentally thinking differently. And I was like, well, that's really hard being programmed to think a certain way. So that's why, like, I think that's where a lot of compassion comes, because I realized how hard it is to even quit smoking cigarettes, quit drinking. Like, I could tell myself that all day, and I know it's bad, but to actually do it, I understand like how long it took me to do it.
Right.
That change, that simple change.
Right.
So in anything, like, it's like, okay, I can see why I can't just tell somebody, hey, you're racist, or this and that. I was like, because it takes, even if they want to change, it takes some time to change.
Right.
And if somebody was like, and I had good friends like, oh, you're smoking cigarettes again, and it is a joking kind of fashion.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was love, because like, hey, I know you want to quit. You said it. And
right.
I'm just helping you out, and it took a long time for me to do that, and that change took so much time to where like now I think it really gives me compassion, because I had to have compassion for myself. So I beat myself up every day for not quitting, for not to keep us like, damn, I did it again. Oh well, like tomorrow or
right.
next week, but it happened.
Right.
It eventually happened, and I was like, man, that took a long time. I had to be very compassionate to myself. So when I look at anybody else, like, I don't know what they got going. Like, I don't know if they're actually trying to change, and because of that, like I just end up giving that compassion out. And even with myself, still not perfect. There's still things that I'm learning, and people are still compassionate with me in this process of it. And I mean, that's love, because sometimes you just beat yourself up so much. Like, man, I want to do better. I'm trying to do better, and you still mess up. And you do that all throughout your years. So I realize it's a process, a very long process to get there.
So I'm wondering if you feel like, if in that process, and I'm talking about this idea of racism, and I'm talking about this idea of this fight for human rights, right? The general idea of love being in, you're literally talking about to one-on-one, like for people. So in your perspective, you'd believe and feel that like on a one-on-one scenario, is that most important?
In one-on-one scenarios, as far as
making change.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think they say it starts with you. It starts with yourself. So like somebody, just even having random passings with people. Sometimes they say something. It could be a random person. They say something really quick, very compassionate, and they may even know what I'm going through. But I was like, man, they said the right thing in the right time. It was like a one-on-one reaction. Or it could be in a crowd and I'm in public and a public speaker says something. So it can go kind of both ways.
Right.
But to really have an intimate conversation, I think it's easier to be like, say, one-on-one, like me sitting here with you. Like, it's easier for me to open up with you rather than I'm in a group of people and trying to.
So what happens when, and I agree with you, but I'm being devil's advocate. So what happens when you got a person who is attached so hard to the nationalism, to the idea that they're protecting, versus the interaction between me and them, or you and them? Like, this dude that wants to carry. I mean, I went to the beach, or not to the beach. I went to a lake that's like a beach. I love it, and we were there, me and a couple friends, and this group of people had a Confederate flag, like just the biggest Confederate flag you can find, you know, just the biggest one, and they had it like big in front of them. I don't know why, and there was like 3 or 4 of them, but it was just this big ass sore Confederate flag there, and I thought to myself, you know, one-on-one is one thing. We might be able to have a conversation one-on-one, maybe. But because he's saying that, to me, that symbol that he put out there is so big that that's where his alliance is at. So it doesn't matter about our one-on-one because that's where he's connected. Is that healthy or unhealthy?
I say things take time. Like, and if you're willing to fight that big, like it's obviously like.
AKA unhealthy.
I feel like you're obviously burying yourself so deep in an idea, and I had to kind of revert everything back to myself. I'm like, okay, if I'm thinking about how would I want to come at anybody like that, I had to kind of look at myself and have I ever held on to something so tight?
Right.
I'm like, and I have. I'm like, okay, what did it take to break that? It took me. Okay, sometimes it took humiliation. Sometimes it took like just really. Education, and then taking that in, sitting with that, and then just it's like, am I wrong? Like, is my world? And on top of that, it took me traveling. It took me going to different places.
Step out of your comfort zone.
I left Georgia and went to Germany, and my head was spinning for at least 4 or 5 months. I didn't know. I was like, what is? It was like I was living in a different world. And when I came back to Georgia, like over there in Georgia, we didn't recycle. We didn't do like a lot of these things.
No, they don't.
And a lot of people are more like PDA in Europe, and on top of that, a lot of people are eating outside and all that stuff. In Georgia, it's just I didn't really see that much of it, and at least where I was from. So that kind of opened my mind up to when I came back. I'm like, oh shit, why don't we recycle? Because I started understanding the importance of recycling.
Right.
So it took me leaving that area, it put myself in another bubble, and seeing that. I mean, they have their own struggles, their own problems, but seeing that the good parts about that, and coming back, like, oh wow, like. My mind was I was so in my own bubble, in my own idea of what the world was like. And so I left that world and made myself uncomfortable and put myself in another world. I'm like, okay, I don't know anything. At this point, I don't know anything. That's why I love traveling. I want to go somewhere else that really challenges me. And to think differently because you stay in a place for so long, you can't help it, even though you think you're maybe progressing, you're reading books, and that's great, and you're really educating yourself. It really takes that experience to be somewhere else and feel it and see it, like just and accept it, and knowing that you're not perfect, you're not, and where you come from.
This is not the answer right where you see it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think about this with this need for oppression, like this need for power, this need for being on top of a whole other culture, like a whole other person, right? The whole other like group of people, to the point of, you know, coming to an open park and have to stay so strong to understand that you have to fly your Confederate flag to tell people who you are. Like, you can't even show up to the lake without your, you know what I mean? Like, it's in knowing what that means to yourself and to other people, whether it's intimidation or collaboration or, like, you know, bringing community together. Either way, they know it wasn't about, like, actually a whole community being put together. Then what is that? What are those other people? You know, in that idea of oppression, because I think because we are an oppressed people, we have the ability to seek harmony. Like, we want to seek harmony. Like, that's actually not how we, in the sense of an Afrocentricity, being from the idea that what makes the community work is actually harmony, right? It's like, so we work, the ideas that come through our memory and through our ancestral line is to harmonize things. So we don't actually need a conflict to have a conversation. We can have conversations in love between harmony, right? But these other folks, that is not their nature. It's actually through conflict that they can relate to each other. So when you talk about love in that way, and I think about just the consciousness in which we are coming from ancestrally, where one is going to be less destructive than the other. But if we both don't if one is destructive and one is not, and the answer is that love will win, it's going to take a lot of pain, right?
It already has.
And it continues, right? And it will until we understand that there is a conflict happening with themselves, like the idea that there's no recognition in like being able to relate without a conflict involved. That to me is like, because that's not that's not Black consciousness. It's very, very hard for me to understand how to reach on a national level when it's like the need to hold on to that flag. I particularly love one-on-one. I think one-on-one is absolutely where change happens. I think there's a bravery, a courage for people who are wanting to avoid conflict, but not knowing how to stay very strong in harmony against conflict, right? Because that's like, well, how are you within harmony if you're going against conflict? Well, that idea is that you're coming with the idea of unity and love and the ability to flex and to change and to all those things, right? So it's not that you don't have conflict. It's that you're not creating change by beating people over the head with conflict.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So and it doesn't put one above the other in terms of power that way, right? It's I don't know that it's a complex idea, but if you think about it in those ways, it's kind of like if the idea is coming from that space on the other side, it's really hard to penetrate one-on-one when their idealism is not coming from themselves, it's coming from a bigger structural oppression that they are trying to uphold. Does that make sense?
Gang mentality, mob mentality, kind of thing like that.
I don't know. It definitely doesn't make them one person.
Because I think that too, like say, if you take one person out of the group, because it's a hive mentality too, like so,
right.
So we're all the same, we're all thinking the same, so we all vibrate on the same level. You take that one person, just take him out, put him in another city, another culture by himself.
Right.
He's gonna have to adapt, or she or whatever.
Yeah.
They're gonna sink and swim.
Yeah.
They're gonna sink. So putting them into another environment, they're not in that moment. So they're in a different environment. They have to learn differently, and they may fall into another hive. But I guarantee you, like just understanding me, pulling myself out of my culture, put myself in another culture, and and there's a lot of mistakes I made because I'm still coming from my mind, my culture, another culture, and I'm doing things that doesn't resonate with that culture. And I always say you can always influence the culture, but you never can change it. Just because it's not what you're used to. Oh well, like you're in another culture,
right?
You're just gonna have to adapt to it,
right?
So, it's just pulling people out of people are comfortable when and you don't grow when you're comfortable. So some people are stuck in this in a mentality because it's comfortable for them.
Right.
When you start like really challenging people, when you start saying like say I look at everything through myself to try to understand. So like say I have a partner and my partner is like, you need to go to therapy, you need to do this. I'm like, no, I'm good. Like there's nothing wrong with me. Yada yada yada. They're fighting for love basically. That's like, no, I love you. I see something. You need to talk to somebody. You need to get this handled or whatever. And then at a certain point, you break down. It's like, is she right?
Right.
Is she right? But it took a long time for me to get to that point.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, I was like, oh, she was right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I'm on that path to healing. Boom. Like, so I was like, anybody else want to point something? If somebody points something out at somebody else, they may be like, no, I'm not this. No, I'm not this. It may just take that right person to really spell it out for them.
Right.
And when they do that, once you start healing yourself, once I started healing myself, I kind of broke away from what I used to know, and that used to be the people that were in that environment too. Mm-hmm. And it felt lonely because I'm like, okay, I'm thinking a different way now, and they're still on this same vibration. And it felt lonely, and I feel like I want to kind of go back. And sometimes I do.
Yes.
Sometimes I do, but then I realized in that solitude, eventually the right people start coming around you that start vibrating on, which you're on the healing path. You start meeting people on that same path, wanting to do the same thing, and that takes courage to do.
It takes courage. I resonate with that because like the idea that just now, and it's been like 6 years since the first evidence of like my life was going to be totally different, right? 6 years, and just now do I see evidence of a new vibration in my life? Meaning that, like, my friends are different, the things I'm doing are different, the words I'm using are different, my emotional response is different, and so it's not a next day decision. You know what I mean? It's a decision, but that decision goes on and on. And I remember at a point where I was like, I have to get out of here to heal, and I left back to where I heal, and that's Texas, right? So I went back south and with my sister, and her birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Jilly. Yeah, right. So like I went back there and hung with my family. My sister, it was a household full of women, right? And we all just did our thing. It was very much like empowering to understand that I can still stand on my own 2 feet. I don't have to keep I don't have to keep explaining myself to white folks to try to be like seen. Like I can stop doing that, you know? It was like I need to be able to show up like me and then just be okay with whoever leaves. And if I'm there by myself, then be fine with myself. And that makes you want to go, I'll be by myself for how long? You start asking these questions. Am I ever going to find somebody? Am I ever going to do this? Am I going to ever be okay? Like, you know, but then all of a sudden, I'm so messed up. Why? Don't nobody like me. And then, like, all of a sudden, it's like all those questions start to be like, but I like me, you know? I don't need anybody. And it's not in a defensive way. It's like, I actually am enjoying myself. It's been quiet. I didn't turn on any music, the TV. I've been sitting here meditating for 2 hours. Like, I'm like, meditating? Yeah, I quietly sat in a room thinking, not in an anxiety way, but just exploring thoughts. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I was doing that for how long? And I enjoyed it? Like, oh wait, I'm starting to enjoy being by myself, with myself. You know what I'm saying? So the thought process isn't anxiety. It's not beating myself up. The conversation turned into curiosity and into wanderlust and like about myself and about my energy and then after that, then it became a like, I can now talk to you and you are not going to penetrate my beautiful aura right now, right? Like my vibration is higher and I'm going to attract higher stuff. And the truth of it is that that's all that's happened. Since then, and now it's going the other way. Now I'm like real picky about who I spend my energy, who I'm with, and time. Just because I now choose the energy that will be spent versus just kind of like, you know, giving everything out and then going home like that fight and then going home depleted and like, how am I going to make it tomorrow? I got to deal with these people. No, I don't have to deal with anybody. Like I'm doing what I do because it's coming from a place of straight up self like assurance, right? That's on the other side of some other something. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna ride it out until the next challenge comes because it's coming. Yeah. And then I'm gonna test this out, right?
That's the whole thing about that's the whole thing about mistakes too. Like I think you come across something, of course, that you're not familiar with, and then you quickly like react. It's like this is how I should deal with it, and then it wasn't the right way to deal with it. But with mistake, you learn from it. So like you're always presented with something new.
Always.
Yeah, and
it's growth.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, you got some new wings. Time to fly. You know what I mean? It's like, wait, I'm not used to flying. Oh, wait, look, I'm flying. Oh, you only flew a mile. Time to do 4. Like, you know, and it's like, oh, my wings aren't strong enough for 4. Oh, wait, I just did 4. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's how I look at it, where we look at this fear, you know, and then that's what stops us from remembering the love. The love is actually what got us to this step of that courage. It's another word for love. It's actually like the hardest one to represent and to bring out love is that you have courage to do so. You know what I mean? So I thought about that. Now I'm going to turn this on you.
What about fear of facing yourself? So once you get over that fear of facing yourself, self-love.
What took you to get over that fear? Courage.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Yeah. So courage is the hardest one. And there's lots of work, but that's like. Because fear is easy. Like you said, you just go, when you're faced with changing, you go, I don't have the courage. So I'm going to go back to what I know. I'm feeding that fear, right? It's the same idea with this whole, like, looking and talking about this whole idea of this uprising and the change and in 2020 and what the hell, what are we going to look like in 2021? At this point, at this point, we know we can't go back. It can't be unseen. We didn't saw it. It's there. It's out there. We all know.
It's on the internet now.
It's right. It's all it's burned in. So we can't go back, right? But going forward, like it's interesting. The other day, we were looking for people to do our branding, like to do our merchandise, and my secretary for the nonprofit was looking, and she has there's like 500, and I'm like, well, narrow it down by this, by that, by that, and she's like, okay, now we're down to 100. I said, now look for Black owned, and she was like, oh, they're all on the East Coast. Right? And I was like, exactly. I said, but we need to be more cognitive of who we're giving our money to. When it gets to Black owned, now we know it's not corporate, right? And we know it's not in this huge systematic thing. Now it's like we're talking individual. We're talking, some of it's getting big. We've got some big, but like not like Gucci. You know what I'm saying? But there are people out there who are like Gucci, meaning the quality is there. But they're not Gucci. Does that make sense? They're not that big name. They're not that... But you gotta look for who you're gonna give your money to.
Speaking of Black owned, like I'm hungry, and I was thinking about what's that? The spot at the beer garden.
Yeah.
What's that? Famous or you know what I'm talking about?
At the beer garden?
Yeah, not the beer garden. I think it is. They have all those food trucks. And
yeah.
Oh yeah. It's that,
Off of 7 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Almost Famous. Oh, Almost Famous.
Uh-huh.
The Catfish. I'm probably gonna stop by there after.
You're like, matter of fact, I'm about to go there after this.
Man, that sounds.
Are they Black owned?
Yeah.
They are?
Yeah.
In the beer garden?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how long have they been there? They haven't been there that long, have they?
As far as I remember, I've been here for 3 years. I don't think I've really been to the beer garden. Probably maybe the second year. I think.
You know what though? That's not true because I went there with my girl and she always gets the Catfish, but I didn't know they were Black owned.
Yeah, that is
okay.
Banging.
Right?
Banging.
Tony's Barbecue. Have you been over to Tony's?
I haven't. I know I'm from the South, and I kind of
okay.
I moved away from barbecue just for the fact that at some point I was really trying to eat healthy, and I was really staying. I love ribs. I just love them. But I wanted to move. The whole part about changing.
By changing.
I wanted to move away from that, and then even now I still don't eat as healthy as I used to, but it's somewhat healthy. And let me stay away from pork as much as possible.
Right.
But,
no, I hear you. I went to Houston, and I was like, oh, where can I get some some healthier food? And there's places that you go, and I gotta say, when I went, more of my friends were vegans and like eating healthy than I was expecting, right? But it wasn't like you could find. I was surprised I actually could find more options there because it's a big city. But I had to know where to go, and then when I did go, the options were bigger than they are here. Like I had more plant-based drinks with plant-based protein drinks available to me there than I ever do here. Like I'm looking for plant-based drinks. Yes, like smoothies that have plant-based protein in it. Yeah, you can go to a drive-through smoothie spot there and they have plant-based protein. But it's because it's bigger. Yeah. But I'm thinking down south where you're going to go get the crawfish, you're going to get the crab, you're going to go get the crab legs.
Yeah, because I went to go visit my cousin in Atlanta, and at that point in time, I tried out the vegan, and I was on vegan diet for about 8 months. I visited him in Atlanta. He's like, man, I'm about to go to the chicken spot. I got it. And
you got it.
It was a wrap. I was back on the meat train.
Right? I mean, my son went to Houston to visit. Where did he go? I don't know if it was Houston, but anyway, he was the same thing. And he came back and he was gained 10 pounds. He was there for over the winter, for Christmas. And I was like, what happened? He was like, look, I went down south. The food is popping. So anyway, but back to the idea, that courage, that idea. I'm gonna mess with you a little bit. I'm telling the audience, y'all know, I barely ever have men on my show. It's not because I don't want men on my show. It's because I can't find no men to come on my show. Okay? And we talked about this before we went on camera. I was laughing because I was like, look, I've had one of my first video, Facebook or in the studio was a guy. And then I had some men who are audioed in. And I'm trying to think if I've had anybody besides you, in the studio, that is a man. Next week I'll have Kakai on. I'm trying to think. If I did, I don't know that I really did. Yeah. But we need more. Yeah. And so we were actually talking about this, and I was like, what's the problem with because I know I have men following me, and some of my first followers were Joshua Stroud. Like he supported me through Patreon and through on my YouTube. Thanks, Josh. You know, and Talia, hey. You know, and so it's like they really supported me to begin with, and that was like, oh, like I'm looking for my men, you know, out there. This is not a show from a feminine point of view, although yes, it is, because here I am, but it's open to black folks. You know what I'm saying? And that's with an X, like black folks, you know? So it's like, I don't know why I can't get dudes up in here. And you were talking about it's the vulnerability,
yeah,
right?
It's the whole vulnerability thing. And I say women are just naturally better at that. And we were talking about women are naturally better at pulling this out. You know, us men are always trying to fight it. You know, women are like trying to pull, and that's a beautiful thing.
Right.
I really truly appreciate. I learned a lot from women in that aspect of emotional intelligence. And but it's just a hard thing to be men to be generally vulnerable and then be put in front of the world to do that. That's a whole nother level.
That's a whole nother level. That's that toxicity though, around that the box of masculinity, like you just said, to be seen everyone see you being vulnerable, like, oh no.
Yeah,
right?
And it just opens up. I mean, on top of that, it opens up some doors that men don't want to open because, like, living in my world, I'm a man, so like just going back out into the world, I'm like, okay, some men can use that against you. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. It's just a whole thing.
No, but I think it's relevant for what we're talking about, though,
yeah.
because I think like women and men are talking about this in different ways, mm-hmm. right? And now women, for me, like this is you all know if y'all are listening to my show that this show is opinion. We are not professional, like. But this, do not quote, right? This is us just doing us. Like we out here just doing our thing. And so for me, like I feel like women, when I see a woman that like supports Trump or something, I don't. They're white or whatever. I don't really look at their whiteness being like, yeah, I get that you're white. I'm like, you a woman. Like you should know. Like what are you doing? You are somebody's mother. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like or even if you're not somebody's mother, you are something like really. Like I look at it in a feminine way that way, you know, very much, I'm like, on a women-to-women thing, what are you doing? But then then we go, that question, were you black first or are you a woman first? It depends on what day and where I'm at, right? And so, looking at what you're talking about, like the vulnerability piece of it, there's pieces of this uprising, there's pieces of this change that I'm looking at men. And I'm like, there's a level of courage to move into vulnerability that needs to be at the forefront in this movement. Especially
so much black men, because like just being taught to be hard all the time. Like
that's what I'm saying.
Yes, it really took a lot for me to open up, because you know I was closed off growing up. Of course, like just how we were brought up, and the environments that we're in, but that was the norm.
Right.
And to realizing that was holding me back from so much.
Right.
And I knew it, and it kind of hurts your heart, because like you're sitting there, you're holding all that stuff inside, holding it so much. And then when I started healing, like I was crying almost every single day, because like I was letting all that stuff go. Like all those years I had held all those things in, and at some point I told myself I don't care anymore. Like I'm not holding myself back anymore, because it was so damaging. It was so for years, like decades, damaging.
Right.
And I was like, I'm over it.
So I'm like thinking about that, the vulnerability, the idea that this movement, the leadership, and I look really air quoting, for real. Like what we're seeing out there, yeah. I see hurt men. You know what I mean? And I see blocking women, and I see even in our movement, I'm like, I don't see enough black men and women together. Or the black men lifting black women, or black women having black partners who, not necessarily romantic partners, but that it's a coexisted front in this fight for love, right? Moving forward together is rare, and something that requires so much courage on both fronts, white folks and black folks. It takes courage for us to stand out in front with my afro when it's illegal. You know, it takes courage for me to show up as a woman in a place that's all men and white, right? Yeah. So it's like, it takes courage for a man to come onto a show and talk about how he's feeling. It takes courage for a man to show up black in a building with white women. You know what I mean? Because what will happen? what will be said? You know what I mean? It takes courage. And I'm not going to speak for white folks because, but it's like, I would think it would take courage for a white person to stand up for blackness in a white space. I think it might be, they have to know that the fact that they are being courageous in that space, that they know that their partners or people are racist. Because if it takes courage for you to say, I'm pro-black, and you're white, that means you know why it takes courage. Because you're in a racist environment. Still courageous, right? There's still something that's coming back at you negatively. So in my idea, when we're moving forward, this toxicity, this is so layered. But we're looking at toxicity. If we can't show up in our whole self and speak in the voices of harmony without lifting each other up, you know what I mean? Without having that fear. There's so much fear. When we talk about the masses, I don't know. I believe it's women that, like you just said, that will bring out this level of courage for you.
So we need women to start running the world, and not saying that they don't have the ability to do it, or they're not doing it in some aspect, but men, being in the military, just having these women that can do more than me, like
right,
and just leadership wise and all that stuff. Like I was able to see that at a young age. So like when I got out, I had no problem. Like say, one was over me as far as the job aspect, I had no problem with that because I saw what women can do. Like,
but I feel like, I agree, obviously. I agree that women, I feel it's time for women to let's get the women into leadership roles. But the whole point of like having men on my show is that I want to be working with men who will encourage me, who will stand next to me and go, yeah, let's do this together. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, come onto my couch. You know what I mean? And let's do it together. And I think that courage, that fear, is the same kind. It's like just articulated differently. But when we're looking at these protesters out there struggling, and I'm like, where are the black women? Like I literally am. Where are the women? Where is the collaboration between the men and the women? Where is it? Where is it evident? And I feel like when you see it evident, you see something moving. Like you see something progressing. But not to say that men can't do this on their own, and not to say that women can't do it on their own, and not to say you got to be binary in either way, like not to say any of that. But in this conversation, I'm looking at myself as a woman, going like, I want more black men being vulnerable so that we can work, so that they can hear me and that I can hear them and work with them.
That's a whole cultural shift right there because it's just, in general, like, as far as men, it's hard for us to be vulnerable. Black men, even harder.
Even harder.
And that's why, like, once I started getting on this path, that's why I love working with kids and just working at the BSU, Madison Middle School. Like, I'm looking different to them because like from what they're used to seeing, I guess I know a lot of what male role models they see is like more so on TV. Like I'm a different. Yeah. I know I'm just a different kind of person, and coming into that classroom and then them just even seeing me, feeling my energy, feeling
right.
how I react to things and how I see things and how that all came from me transforming. And I know that it starts younger. Like I was working with this one kid and he was hard, always like, it reminded me of myself.
Always hard.
Never
Lips
smiling.
Tight.
Yeah, not showing emotions. I see you, bro. Like I see you. And it took some time. It took some time to really talk to him and understand. Like when he got in trouble, like I know how it felt to be hard on myself. So I had to come with some hardness, but at the same time, some kind of like, bro, why are you doing that? That's really messed up. Or like you can handle this so many. It's like, bro,
giving options.
Yeah, that's about. I've been there before. I know how you feel. And then started talking to them, and it took almost maybe a year. And then after that, he kind of opened me up. But he opened to me about his musical side. I had no clue. He had a music side. Like, can I show you something? Like, yeah, blew me. It's like you're in the 7th grade, and you rap better than me. you play the instruments beautifully. I was like, oh, you really need to consider music, and it really helps you heal. And just for me to say that, I hope in the future he does, because he plays sports too. He's like, you think I should do music or sports? I'm like, I'm not the one to tell you what you should do, but sports, you can kind of get injured, and what's happening right now with COVID,
Right.
Who knows?
Right.
But music, like, that lives on forever.
Right.
And I hope that C was playing it, but he's just amazing. I understood it. It took me to be healing myself, being in a vulnerable spot to where, like, and being comfortable with being where I'm at, to actually try to help teach somebody else, like another black young male, to do the same thing. And
right.
I'm still learning, so I'm still making mistakes. So it's kind of hard to really, like, you want to teach somebody, but you're not perfect enough. So sometimes I feel bad because, like, okay, I made a mistake. Dang it. Like, I'm trying to teach
never
this.
not perfect enough. You're always perfect enough. For real, because think about what you're saying. If they see you struggling, they're like, oh, he struggles too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because so being not perfect is actually better, because none of us are perfect. So if they're looking at someone who's not perfect too, but they already admire you because you're doing what you do, then it's like accessible. I can reach where he's at.
Yeah.
I can be centered and still not be perfect. That's something I can do. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, to try to reach for perfect, man, are you kidding? Like, I'm as perfect as it's going to be today. You know, I'll be like less perfect tomorrow, more perfect on Wednesday. You know what I mean? Like, it's just how it's going to be. Like, I just can't, you know, so I'm just saying that to you. And here it is. My feminine, like, hug, to your masculine hard, right? I mean, like it's, but it's, I mean, if we're doing that, why not do that? Why not balance it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Why? And balancing isn't 50-50. That's my whole point. Like, balancing is not 50-50. Love is not always whole. Like, it's not always going to look perfect. But we've got to be able to recognize unhealthy. We got to be able to recognize toxicity. We got to be able to recognize pain, and then growth. Yeah. You know, and I think it's all on a spectrum. It's all on a spectrum. Toxicity doesn't need to actually be killed. It doesn't need to actually, but it does need to be addressed, and it does need to be separated until it gets to a point where it's pain. Because toxicity is over pain, right? Yeah. It got to come down to pain. Yeah. Pain is actually progress. We both been in a position where we're numb, right? We know that's not a good place to be. But once you can feel the pain again, oh, now we're getting better. Yeah. The fuck? People like, so hold on. Because you're crying every day, you're good? Yeah. Because if I'm hard and I couldn't feel it, then we're not okay.
You're not living, like you're existing.
You're existing, and that's not healthy, right? So in these ideas, in a bigger picture of these ideas, if you're upset, this is good, right? If you're numb and you can't eat anymore and you can't drink anymore because the state of the world is getting you to the point where you're now, like, people don't want to hang out with you. You're toxic. You're spilling out. You need help at that point, right? But if, let's say you haven't been able to feel anything and you're just, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just like, I don't have any feelings about this. You know what I mean? You need help to feel it. Now, if you're upset and you're crying, you're good. Right?
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right.
You're
exactly.
good. Take the courage to just go to say, you know, that whatever it is we're moving and changing to, try to remember that the short game is like you said, the short game is the fight. And the long game is love. And that means it's not like a hippy-dippy, like, ooh, love, everything, love. It means you went through a process to love yourself so that you can love others. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That takes a lot of work.
It takes work.
And
it takes courage.
Yeah.
And it takes jacking up some stuff. It takes messing up.
Yeah, you have to be more so open to making mistakes than ever.
Yeah.
Like, and just putting it out there. I'm gonna make mistakes. I have to. Hopefully, they forgive me. Hopefully, and I forgive myself.
That's right.
But putting myself in a position to, like, okay, here we go. I know I'm gonna make some mistakes. Like, just anything. Like, even like when I started working at the school, I'm like, I've never worked with kids before.
Right.
Like, and I was making mistake after mistake. I was to my coworkers too. I was like, man, I think I'm not doing this right and this right. I was really beating myself up to the point. It's like, I don't think I'm cut out for this.
Right.
Like, I wanted to run, but I stuck with it, and it was the best decision I made because they just love just to be seen. And to me, I was like, I'm messing up. Like, I don't want to mess them up, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this whole world, nobody knows what they're doing. We're all trying to figure it out.
That's right.
So for anybody trying to preach to me like this, is how it should be, like even
there goes those shoes again.
Not the presidency, like the presidents or just anybody. Like it's like here's the laws. Like marijuana should be legal. Like who are you? Like why are these group of people telling you that marijuana should be illegal?
Right.
Like why? Like
right.
Who are these people? What? It just similar to the point where we give you so much knowledge and if you still say it's illegal, I'm more intelligent than you. Obviously.
I'm like, but I'm looking at like, where are you in your process? Like, where are you in your process? How much do you really know about what you're talking about? Because if you're talking about one perspective, this is something that my dad told me that I literally think about all of the time. And there's nothing in this universe that can be cut so thin if there is only one side. So if you come into me with one-sided ish, I really have nothing to say to you because I'm going to need you to be dynamic with your argument. I'm going to need you to come from my perspective, your perspective, their perspective. I'm going to need you to have done the work and then tell me why it's illegal. You know what I mean? Because if you just tell me because you got these other ideas and this one-sided stuff and you don't want to mess with this because this is whatever, you one-sided. I can't deal with it. You're trying to get me to should. And I'm not, I need to understand why it's balanced. Like, why is it a balanced approach that you're talking about? Now, let me know what balance you on. Now, if you're talking about 10-90, that ain't the type of balance I'm into, right? You know what I'm saying? You're talking about 60-40, I can work with that. You know, 70-30, maybe depends on what we're helping. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's how I think we should be approaching this. How well are you in tune with what the outcome is? Like, are you looking at the short game and you're not really looking at the long game? Because your short game should be evident in your approach to the long game, right? Like, yeah, we're all fighting, but if you're not thinking about that fight if you're talking about oppressing somebody in that fight, how is that leaning you to love for the greater good or love for yourself? Because if you start talking about loving yourself, the greater good will be there. Because if everyone is talking about loving themselves, it looks different. Your love for you is different than my love for me. But if we're loving ourselves, I will then treat you automatically with more respect.
Yeah.
You'll be coming from a place of balance for yourself, in yourself. That's it. And y'all know I go woo. I am into hippie shit. I mean, yeah, not really into hippie, but woo for sure, right? Like, so I will go into the spiritual ideas of healing your soul. We aren't going to go there right now. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, like, it feels better when you feel better about what you showed up to do. Yeah. And you're balanced with it. You're okay with it. Right?
I think your world looks different too. You look at people because I think that if you live in a certain world, and I've been there, you know, I live in a very paranoid state, so when I come out to the world, I'm already in a paranoid heightened state. So everybody's a part of this paranoia state.
Right.
When I come out the world, like I said, I meditate. I came out in the world, I'm in a really relaxed state. I'm looking at other people like in my head. I'm like, oh, they must be in a relaxed state. So it's just how you view the world, how you feel about yourself, what mindset you're in at that point in time. It's kind of like a reflection of the world. So that's why there's many realities. I can wake up in the morning. This would be my reality. I'm super paranoid. I don't want to come outside. I'm good staying at home. Other days I feel good. Where like now this is another reality, and I look at the world differently. So. It comes down to mental health too. Like, is a lot of what's going on are people mentally ill as well,
right?
And not acknowledging that and not taking care of it to where once they take care of the mental health, maybe they start viewing the world a little bit different. Maybe they have more compassion because you have to have compassion for yourself before you get to anybody else. And are people like so they grew apart and so they're so hardened that they can't release it, so it comes out in hate, it comes out in anger.
That's right.
You know,
yeah.
So,
yeah, and you got to look at that when you're talking about people who are completely indifferent about children being in the border because of a law that's written. You know, that level of indifference, that's not normal. That's not normal mental processing for human beings. You know what I'm saying? So it's not to say the whole side of that political thing is all mentally ill. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that where are you? You know, where are you mentally? I don't know. I'd like to know where your balance is at. Because I'm trying to find out what the toxicity level is. You know what I mean? Just because if you have to show, and I've talked about this on my show before, if I have to keep showing you dead bodies for you to understand that what I'm saying is true, the problem is not me. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, it is not us. If I gotta keep showing you trauma before you recognize that I'm asking for help, like I gotta keep showing you how deep it's only this deep will only allow you to be this much traumatized. You know what I mean? It's like, something ain't right with the system. You know what I mean? Yeah. Something ain't right with this. And that is where the fear comes in of us operating within a system that's built on those type of premises that is built to oppress other people as if they're not people. So the system is not set up in a balanced way. It's not even set up on a mentally healthy way. If you think about it in a bigger picture of things, it was literally built to exclude human beings based on the fact that they were not considered human beings.
Exactly. And just the whole fact of like just humanity is crazy, and people are desensitized. Like,
yes.
And just me, like just growing up hard, like I'm desensitized to certain things. Something that might be shocking, like say I go watch a video with that person, like it's, I've been shot at, I've been in dangerous situations. Me seeing that, it may not trigger me. Like you may have to come at me in a different kind of way than you come at somebody else who's just not desensitized to that, and it clicks to them right away.
Right.
So and understanding my desensitization to certain things and acknowledging, because I'm still desensitized, that doesn't mean that I won't be sensitive to it, but at the same time I acknowledge where I'm at.
But that right there is healthy, because you see that you are desensitized. Some people don't recognize that they have desensitized and detached. You see what I'm saying? Because being desensitized and detached is two different things, right? Because you can look at it and go, I know why that doesn't bother me like it bothers her or you or them. Because I've been in this situation, I've seen it a bunch, I've been shot at, you're a vet, this is going to hit you differently, like you just said, right? But me, I'm looking at it like, I ain't seen no dead bodies in my life. Like, I don't want, I'm a mother of a son who's black, who's been beat up by, so when I look at it, it's hitting me way different than it's hitting my brother or my cousin or my whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, but when we're detached from it, as if it's not a human being we're looking at.
Right, yeah, exactly, yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know what level of mental health that is. I mean, right? Because these are snuff videos that we're looking at every day. There's another one saying, why did someone get killed by this cop when he just asked to something, he was called, it was a white dude that got shot in his living room by a cop who came to ask for some help. But literally the title was, watch this guy get killed for asking for some help or something like that. And I was like, what? How is that legal? Like, honestly, it's not that level of desensitization, but that's not what that is. I mean, that is, but when you're doing that, like it's not, like you're not a vet, you are trained to go into military situations. Homie over here is not.
No.
They're just clicking on clickbait and seeing this, and that's supposed to do what?
And that comes down to even like America as a whole being desensitized, because you look at the news, like I feel like wherever the vibration of the nation is in the news, if they're playing negative stuff, robberies, killings, and all these other things constantly, because they know it's going to get us ratings. Obviously, they're getting ratings because people want to see it.
Right.
It's very attractive for people to watch this.
Right.
They start flipping the script and start playing good news. I guarantee their ratings go down because it's just not attractive. But that's just something that we have to fix as the public. We have to push for this.
Look, every time I have a video that does not have to do with race, my views go way down. If it's about any kind of thing that's mostly kind of an antagonistic viewpoint, even whether or not I say it, whether or not our conversation is antagonistic, because never is antagonistic here, because this is just us, right? Yeah. But if the title is antagonistic and it has to do with race, I'll get over 4,000 views. Yeah. If I don't, I'm getting 1,200 views, right? Yeah. Guarantee, it just depends on what the conversation. Now, this is going to be titled Love. We're going to get like 500. Ain't nobody ever watching that.
You end up making controversy like war on love.
Right?
Oh,
right?
War,
bloody love. Because then it's like, ooh, right? But what state is that? Like, can we get to your long game where it's not where we can just respect, because respect is a form of love. Like we were going to define love, and we were like saying how hard it is to define love, because there's romantic love, and there's ethical love, and there's all kinds of there's platonic love, and there's all kinds of different ways to show love, and depth love, and like spiritual love, and soul love, and all of these things. But like the bottom line of that love is respect, right?
Yeah, it's respect and compassion.
And compassion, respect and compassion are pretty much like, constant, like in all of the type of loves, you're going to be showing some sort of compassion and some sort of respect, right? And I don't do well with romantic love. Like, I don't do well with romantic love, and I say every time I tell my friends that, they're like, yes you do, yes you do. They're so nice. They're like, yeah, you do. And the reason why I say I don't is because I've actually never been in a healthy romantic relationship where I can be me and they can be them.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm wild and crazy, so I'm right there with you. Like I just be doing some wild stuff.
Right?
I'm crazy, and I don't know. I'm just the way I moved it, and I'm just be desensitized to certain things. I mean, I don't know, like, and it's a really hard concept where it's like, hey, I'm like this. Even though I'm growing, at the same time, I'm still me on a certain foundational level. Can you accept that? And most people can't, or they do, and I push it away. I don't know. See, it's one of those.
Well, see, the thing is this. Yeah. It's like that's that inner journey.
Yeah.
And trust me, since I've been on my inner journey, I haven't tested it out on somebody else. But but I do recognize that in that inner journey, you have to be okay with you. We said this like several times today, right? So I'm thinking a lot of times in my relationships, I go for people I can help. That ain't healthy, right?
Yeah, I do the same.
Right? And then people, they come for me because they need help. I get a lot of men who are like, you're like this, right? And so I want to be in that, like me and my friend, an old friend of mine used to call it like basking in our personality. Like they want to be in the sunshine of the positive, like they want to be in that sunshine. Right. They're not giving anything.
Yeah.
They're taking a lot. But yet I'm giving, I'm wanting to like give to you, but it's not giving really when I think I see something in you that you don't see in yourself. That's actually not healthy. That's me telling you that I think you can be this thing. Well, I see so much potential in this person. The hell, they gotta see potential in themselves. It's not my job to pull it out. I am not your mother, and you're grown. Mother stopped pulling out potential a long time ago too. It's up to you, right? So for me as a woman being like, oh, I can see, now this is me in my 20s. Like, let's understand that's 20 years ago of me thinking I can pull potential out, right? But that comes along a lot in relationships when they're thinking they're loving someone. It's like you're not accepting that person. Even if they're nasty, if you don't want nasty, then go, right? You can't change. Now, if someone is going to change as long as they're moving and they're growing and you can accept their growth, but they're growing, they're doing the work. They have to work on themselves. Even when you guys are together, it's still not your responsibility to work on them. Yeah. It's to support them in their work. Now, mind you, I am single, so I'm giving a bunch of advice. I'm giving a bunch of information that I am not practicing right now. But I said that, I'm like, oh my God. But what I'm saying is that I'm thinking about what the past of the type of love that I felt was appropriate love, and then I grew, right? And so now I'm looking at myself like a healthy love is something that I rarely see, for one, and that I know that what it would take for me to be in a healthy relationship would really mean a lot of something that I've never done before. And that tells you that, like, damn, I thought I was loving. Right? I had great relationships. What happened? Like, I wasn't okay with just being me. I need a lot of freedom in my relationship. Like, what you were saying, like, you have a lot of things where you're like, I have a lot of, like, and so that's hard. People don't accept it. I need a lot of freedom in my relationship. I need to actually be able to do.
Yeah, me too. Like,
right?
Like a butterfly. Like just.
Like a butterfly. Yeah. Right?
But I think about this too. All right, so at least in my mind, like, I feel like just taking it back, like essentially we're animals, we're evolved, or we're just animals. We have this still natural instincts to where our natural instincts is reproduction, is of course shelter, safety, food.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's probably another one, but whatever. But I feel like when you take it back to that, and what were we doing back in the day is more tribalistic. It's more real community, and so maybe they have multiple partners back in the day. I don't know, but at the same time, you have a kid. You're trusting your community with your kid, like, and maybe it's not. I don't think it's as tight as it was back then because then like everybody was. I feel like the community was a lot closer here. Like you can have your own house, you can be in your own world, and somebody else can be in their own world, and then it's just it's a different way of looking at it. So and then of course humanity we make these so complicated. So like okay, so in my mind say, am I supposed to be one person? Am I supposed to like? Am I supposed to still? Yeah, am I supposed to be one person basically?
Right.
And is that how my brain operates? And does that work for me?
Right.
And I think that's when it comes down to dating. You kind of have to put yourself like in awkward situations and just date out there just to see like okay, no, this didn't work. Okay, change this up, or this did work. I really like this, but not with this person.
Right.
And yeah, I just realized like that's probably just a weird thing about me. I'm just so. And it's like on my own, it's so independent that it sometimes just doesn't really work out. And like, how does that look like? How do I translate that? How do I communicate that to a partner?
Yeah.
Hey, this is how I am. How do I do it properly? And I don't know.
But no, but that's what I say. All of that to go back to our conversation about in the bigger picture of things. Like you just said, how do I communicate that? How do I communicate my feelings about what I need? Even though I know it may not match what they need, and I like them. There's an energy there. Like, how can I communicate, right? That's a level of romantic love that we're talking about. Now, platonic love, is it easier for you to communicate with platonic love? Is it easier for you to communicate in other types of friends?
I said yes, because I think sex changes everything. Sex changes a lot. So platonic love, you're not building that strong bond, that strong connection. Like some people could be detached from it to where it's just sex or whatever. Some people like it's an emotional thing. So I say platonic to me is definitely easier because I feel like once you cut out sex, like it's just easier. Like,
right.
Once you add that in, there's a whole bunch of flood of emotions and I don't know. It's just
so when I look back at it and I'm looking at like how when we're giving love. And we're understanding the love that we're giving. It's really easy to give hate. Because we don't think that there's several levels of hate. There's several levels of hate. There's so much hate. There's just as much hate as there is love. And you give it in different ways. And literally, is the idea in romantic love or platonic love, that complication of sex, okay, that makes sense. But ethical love, that none of that has sex or oxytocin and those kind of things. Let's take it out, right? In that moment, it's like communication, but really what it is you showing up in a particular level and able to show and knowing how much you're able to do in that moment. Like, I'm able to do this for you in this type of love. I'm going to give this to you. Is that love too? So if you're talking about hate, when you're doing the microaggression, we're not taking that as hate. You're not giving that as hate. But is that hate? Like, I'm not giving you, but having you come to my door, sit on my table, having us be here, is this love? You see what I'm saying? Like, there's levels of how this works. So it's like every single day we are accomplishing either love or hate. We are accomplishing that on very subtle levels of each thing. We are accomplishing love every day. We are also participating in hate. If we are not actively communicating, if we are not actively seeking inner peace of our own position, if we are not actively aware of respect and compassion.
I like that. That's true. That's when you think about it in that way, like, you think about like, hey, show some love. Like, you go to my page, show some love. Like, that's a form of
love. My Patreon, look, I got people loving me through my Patreon, and it literally buoys me when I see it. If I get a deleted Patreon, I'm like, oh my God! And it's not because of the money. It's because, like, damn, did I not do something? Like, I'm giving with compassion and respect. Like, did they leave? It might be because they cannot do $10 this month. Get it? But I'm gonna be like, I'm looking at it like love, right? And so when it goes, I'm going, did I give enough of my side of my love? Did I give enough of my, you see what I'm saying? But then I gotta look at myself in love and understand that I am doing what I do. It's not always for everyone. They're doing what they do at the best that they can do. right? So if they had to delete for whatever reason, it may be about me, or it may be about something about them. You know what I mean? I just have to show up as authentically as I can every single day. Does that mean I never give out hate? No, I'm a petty motherfucker. I will, right? But I mean, that's me being honest. You know, that's how I roll. Now, do I give out more love than hate? Yes. You know what I mean?
We're human though, so like it happens. We're humans, like we're not perfect, so of course, like when we might react a certain kind of way.
Right.
It. So.
And people say, hate's such a strong word. Hate is hard to say. It is, but I don't know how it's landing on that other person. I don't know. I gotta give respect for them to go through their process. It wasn't kind. You know what I mean? It wasn't kind, and we can evaluate love. It wasn't sex. Like, but is it still love? Like, people tie these things together that everyone does. I don't necessarily tie sex to love. You know what I'm saying? Some people go, man, I could never. I have to know them, their mama, their blah, 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 and then maybe. There's some people like that. And some people are like, I don't need to know their name. Like, there's some people like that. Yeah. But so it's like we're human beings. There's a spectrum. You know what I'm saying? There's a spectrum of that. And I think that with dealing with another human being, if you see them as a human being, you got to understand you are dealing with a spectrum of possibilities.
Yeah.
So how should be? How could it supposed to be? It's supposed to be human rights. I'm supposed to be able to breathe freely, show up without fear, right? Food, water, safety. Simple things. If those things don't happen, then we're talking about something else.
It's the illusion of freedom.
It's the illusion, right? And it's at the hands of someone else. You see what I'm saying? There's an oppression there. There's someone blocking these natural human rights. There's someone blocking it if it's not available to you, because it's a natural right. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, of course there's law. Of course there should be order. But I think that there's been lots of people who lived over the centuries and centuries that have had order that did not need and did not have oppression, did not have this level of hate, did not have this level of violence, right? There are absolutely, evidence of people not having to live and not having to grow under the guise of violence and oppression. That shit has existed, and does exist. So this is like an illusion that it's necessary. You see, that's what I'm trying to get to. It's an illusion that it's even necessary to have that conflict in order for it to be how do we know what we're doing unless we've improved something? It's like you're coming from a level of deficit. Coming from a level of deficit does not work.
Yeah, that's why everything starts like where I'm playing catch up. A lot of things I didn't learn as a kid. So I think everything does start when you're young. Like, and let's just say like some of these shootings going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we did ban weapons, like, it's one of those things where if we ban weapons, could we all do it? Could we all play a hand to it? It's like, but know that if the one person in the whole group wants a weapon, he's going to get a weapon.
Mm-hmm. And
then on top of that, he has the advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, then we all need the weapons, but does that make us more dangerous, or does that make everything more safe because everybody has weapons? Who knows? Like, who knows?
Well, that's if everyone was on an even playing field. You can't do that with you. That logic doesn't work if you're not looking at the playing field. Exactly. Everyone is not the same.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, if we did, it's one of the things when you look at the bigger picture, you want to look at love, like world peace. You want everybody to so we have to kind of eliminate inequality basically.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, we have to eliminate. There's a lot of things we have to eliminate. We have to have the. I had a discussion about nukes. I was like, man, USA should just get rid of the nukes. I got a whole flood of comments saying that, oh no, we shouldn't because we'll be unprotected, yada yada yada. I'm like, well, I don't know about nowadays, but people used to look at America, technically the world, as a big brother. Whatever America's doing, should we follow suit? The war on drugs, so other countries follow suit. Like, we have influence. If we got rid of nukes, would that make other countries feel empowered to say, okay, U.S. that really makes.
Right.
I feel a little bit safer. So it's just one of those things where like you got to be the big. A lot of situations you got to be the bigger man, and hope for the best. And we're repeating history over and over and over again. We kind of have to do things differently, and that's doing something differently is uncomfortable and uncomfortable. People are scared of change. People are scared of uncomfortability. As a nation, that's why I think the whole weed thing is very slow.
Right.
Because people are afraid of it. It's going to happen, but they need to.
Man, we can talk about the weed thing. We're about out of time, but we're going to do another one about the weed thing because the South with the weed is strictly. I think the disconnect is biblical, and you know what I mean. And we will, if we start talking about the Bible in the South, we're gonna have to be real careful because I love my people, but we know how this is, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not religious, but I respect religion. You see what I'm saying? Like I have gone to a mosque, a synagogue. I've gone to church, I've done all of it. And I've gone more than once. It wasn't like I just went. I went with friends who go, and I'm respecting their need to be there, and I'm there with them. I've been to all of those things. I've read the Quran, you know what I'm saying? I've read the Bible. I just don't, I'm not religious. I wasn't raised that way, but I respect it in its purest form, if that makes sense, right? But when it comes to black folks and Christianity and things, we have to have a conversation, but it needs to be a very special and very careful conversation because I respect it.
I'm down for that.
And I don't want to hurt anybody, right? And I don't want to be disrespectful because I know what this means for people, and that's respect and compassion. I don't need to should them into my space. You know what I'm saying? So anyway. It was a good conversation. I don't think we talked about much of nothing we wrote down, though. Like, what did we... I guess we kind of did.
Yeah, there's more. I mean, we probably could have went really in depth into it, but I feel like this is such a complex thing to talk about.
Yeah. The only thing we didn't bring up was about staying in your lane through through your talent. But I think I think we're good.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it real quick, but I mean, other than that, just I know what I'm good at. I know everybody kind of like, I feel everybody has a talent and they can use that talent to the best of their abilities in a fight against anything, like a fight against oppression.
Right.
So like we're all on the same team, but how can I serve you best? Some people say if you look at video games, some people are really good at snipers. That's their lane.
Right.
Some people are good at hopping in helicopters, jumping into the action, and doing that thing. So everybody has a talent. How do we use that to better everything? And every little bit helps. Like, see, for somebody who people like, oh, he's a social justice warrior on he's just supposed to, but that's good.
Yeah.
If that's what he wants to do, that's all he wants to do. If people say you do more, I can be doing more. Everybody can be doing more.
Right.
But at least he might be posting something that I was like, wow, I like this information. I want to share this because I've never heard this. Like, so everybody plays their part, really, no matter how small, how big. Everybody's on a team. Like everybody's
right. That's what we were talking. That's right. We were talking about that being that like throwing people into positions that they're not naturally in, right? And then having an expectation that they would then play that position like they know what they're doing and not giving that space for understanding that they don't know. And you put them there. You put them in a position that they don't know how to do. So they could be better utilized in a position or in a space that is their talent, right? Not because they're brown, not because they're white, and because they fit the picture of what they should look like or what it should do, is that this is what you can do to be productive in the movement. Right? Stay in your lane, meaning that like I was having some issues with, I was looking at the protest and I was looking at my education, like my nonprofit, I'm looking at my anti-racism conversations, and I'm like, I'm really good at organizing, and I'm really good at like moving people, like, encouraging people. And I'm like, I could help the protesters. Like I could do that. And I'm good at it. I don't want to do that, right? Because I need to be doing this. And then it's like, I need to be doing this. Like, can other people do this like I do this? No. Like, what I'm bringing to this is my own talent, right? Just like if I went and did that, it wouldn't be like anybody else's. It would be me, right? But can I spread myself so thin to do all of them? And then how am I helping?
Yeah, you're not. You're really, because when you spread yourself too thin, you're not putting 100% or even 80% to something.
Right.
So
one of them is not my pure talent.
Yeah.
I might be good at it. It's not my pure talent. Right? And so you gotta, like, in this space is what we were talking about, like, this is also love, this is also self-love, because that would not have expressed my boundaries to my own self-love if I were to help and do as much as I could and then be sick at the end of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It actually wouldn't have served me. Right? So that's not self-love, actually. So then I'm looking at it like, okay, how can I be helpful? Stay in my lane. Yeah. Do this, what I do, the education around race on several different platforms, do that.
That's what's huge too for people participating in anything. It's brand new to people. But participating in it is it's a learning curve. Like, so I jumped into something. I may not be good at this, but I tried. I wouldn't know unless I jumped into it. Sometimes I jumped into something and people are like, hey, like, you're really good at this though. Like, you're really good at talking to people, even in a different areas. Like, you're really good at talking to people. It should be a kind of light bulb going off. Like, he's saying this. Why does he feel this way?
Right.
So just kind of investigate that, and then okay, maybe. But if I didn't put myself in a situation for that friend to come into my life to tell me, it's like, hey, I think you're good at working with people. I think you should do this. Light bulb go off. Okay, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm glad I met this person because he led me to something else. Okay, maybe I should try this area.
Follow the opportunities. You're saying, right? Okay. So
you just have to just kind of put yourself out there, being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
To understand like what you're good at, and people sometimes it takes people who see you. You may not see yourself and what you're good at, but people may see it. People may point it out. You hear it enough. Yeah. To where like they may be on. It took me with writing. People are like, you're good at writing. You're good at. I don't know about that, but I heard it so much. Right. To where I'm like, maybe there's something to that, but it took me putting myself in comfortable situations and I think as you're growing, you need to try that. Yeah. You need to find out what you're good at, right? Like, and you need to find, if you're not sure, you gotta try, and you gotta let people tell you. You gotta let people see you, and you gotta hear it too. Yeah. I mean, how old are you? 30. I'm infinite.
How old are you? I just want to know. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Just to let y'all know.
Secret,
I wasn't. I'm unborn.
Oh, really? Is that okay? You'll have to talk to me more about that because I would like to be unborn too. So okay. Okay, we'll just say fair to say I'm older than you are, but I feel like it took the same thing that we're talking about when I was younger. Yeah. I think the last show, or a couple shows ago, they were laughing because she's like, "You on your 5th life?" Because I've done so much stuff trying to figure out what I'm good at. Or not what I'm good at, but where my natural talent lies, right? I've done a lot of stuff, but the one thing, this cracks me up, the one thing I'm really good at is talking, okay? And when I was really young, all my report, you know how they used to write on the, they used to write on the report card?
The notes?
Present to have in class, talks a lot. that was from kindergarten on, I don't even care. So it was pleasant. Such a good little girl, talks a lot. Talks a lot. Girl, look, then I realized that, I'm good at a lot of things. I have one of those people who are like, show it to me, I got it. Like, I ain't never rapped, I bet you I can do it. I don't know if I'd be good, but I'll bet you I'll try, right? You know what I'm saying? Oh, you don't want me to rap? I can dance. Let me get, how many dances can you do? I can do 45 different, and you won't even be able to tell I wasn't training. I'm like that. Like, show me, I'll practice, I'll get it. But that's not what I do. That's not my natural place. Just because I can pick it up and go, yeah, it's really good. It's actually not my natural place. How do you find your natural place? It actually sings to you in your very core of your body. Like, I can be good at a lot of things, but if I'm not, if it's not humming from here, from my heart, it's because I'm good at it. It's not what I'm naturally placed here to do. And in my 40s, I can actually say, I'm naturally placed here to do what I'm doing. And it's manifested in a way that I didn't in my 30s or my 20s would have ever guessed.
So did you get made fun of? Did you get made fun of in school for talking a lot?
By who?
I don't know, just in general.
No. Because I'm always the one when people come and listening to me, and my teacher's like, "Could you please stop talking?"
Or maybe it's okay, but in school, the teachers notice that about you. I always saw something, or I always thought about something to where these kids say, even growing up, I see like a lot of these kids got made fun of for whatever made them different, whatever they
Interesting.
special, and then they got made fun of it because it's like their superpower.
Well, I got made fun of as a kid here because I grew up here till I was 15. Was being everything about me. Like, so it was my butt, it was my black, it was my body, it was my hair, and now in my 40s, it's me being me and being like showing up, and I give it to other people. That is my superpower.
Yeah.
And the thing is that my very essence was teased from kindergarten till I moved away from here in 9th grade. So everything about me was teased that way. And then when I went to Texas, it was still that. It was still me that was being teased, like the way I talk, where I came from. Because I came from Costa Rica there. So they were like, oh, so you're not really black. You stand what you think you are. Like, so anybody that came at me, it was always about me. It wasn't necessarily by anything I'm doing. Because remember, you ain't going to give me on basketball because I will hoop you up. Yeah. Right? You're not going to give me on this because I got better grades. So everybody was like, that's not what they can mess with me with. Yeah. It was me. And that was literally in my 40s that I realized that my superpower is actually the energy that I give me. You know what I'm saying? And that's really hard to come from one place that's like you, the essence of who you are, we don't want around, to like the essence of who I am is what you're going to get.
I think as kids, the kids are so in tune at that young age, they see something different and it's easy to make fun of. And they don't know it, they just don't know. So that it's easy to point out somebody, whatever's different, whatever's special about a person. But looking at now, even going to school and seeing how the kids treat other kids, like, why does the kid get picked on? I can see why this kid's different, why this kid's special.
Right.
I was like, man, this person has a talent, but the kids make fun of him because it's so different.
Because it's different, yeah.
I was like, hey, like, you're going to be famous when you grow up. Like, to be honest with you, you're going to be famous when you grow up. Don't listen to what they say, just be humble about it. And of course,
you gotta tell the other kids, like, you gotta leave him alone. He gonna be paying you when you're older. He gonna be your boss.
The struggle actually helps in the art when they get older.
It's true. Yeah, I know. It's like a give and take. We're like, trust me, because if I hadn't gone through it, I wouldn't be so clear about it now. You know what I mean? You're right. The struggle has to happen. Like, anyway, thank you, Marcus, for coming on my show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Oh wait, okay. So I'm gonna end this part, and we're gonna go through the comments that are here. Right. So thank you again, and we're gonna wrap it up. Peace out. There's that, and then over here. All right. So I don't know who this is. Dwayne. Oh, hey, that's my guy. Do you know Dwayne Robinson?
Oh, I know Dwayne. Yeah.
Yes.
Big homie too.
Okay, I've been with my partner for 20 plus years and we are still working on how to communicate and receive the message of, yes, that's true. Yes, courage is key. You could interview our great chef Jesse and articulate Tyrone.
Ooh, chef, I'm hungry, man.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, this is Josie. Yeah, they can come on my show all the time. Anyway, yes. How about interviewing local black businesses? I didn't know that about the beer garden either. I hear you, Anthony Jackson. I will go to Tony's. Okay, yes.
Tony.
I love that. Sometimes something your self-love, compassion can be better than showing other people at the same time, right? That's true. That's my dad. He was watching. Love you both, Marcus and Aisha. Let's vibrate higher. Yes, that's Macy. Gotta address trauma bonding. Yeah.
Trauma. Yeah. That's funny. I seen a post about that randomly, and I've never heard anybody. That term is not really it's new to me.
Trauma bonding is really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never heard of the trauma. I get it. I understood it once I read it.
As soon as you read it, you're like, yeah, I understand that, right? And it makes sense actually. If you guys share that kind of like pain, it's like get through it together. Yeah, it's complicated.
If I go into space and I come back, like nobody's gonna have. I'm gonna have to date another astronaut who's gonna understand me. Okay, anyway, I'm just talking.
No, you're not. It says, my mom says, Dad said that expression of love, especially European love, encompasses many thoughts and behaviors, but there is only one type of behavior that manifests respect. I prefer the behavior generally that promotes respect. The condition of our planet and its population is reflected by gross misunderstanding of love versus respect. So he's saying that love is just a European love, but there's only one thing, which is respect. That's what his point of view is. Thank you, Dad. The playground, the quad, all mirrors in the street. I don't know, Tyrone, we didn't hear you at that time, so I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about.
Conseco.
Yeah, I am 5 in the house.
You doing some great work out there.
Yeah, okay, people just saying hello. Hey, Mike. Okay, so that was it. All right, thank you guys. Thank you very much. Peace out.